Lots more cornflowers at the front of the house. As you can see, we've now got scaffolding up the front of the house. This is, I've got a few jobs to do up there. Obviously the main one is going to be fixing the leak above this roof. I'm now getting some quotes to actually replace the whole of the roof because there's some, it's evidence that it's time for renewals of that, and I've got some money in the bank, so a new roof is never a bad investment. While I've got the scaffold up there, I'm going to be painting the top two windows. The frame, there's a little piece of lot at the bottom of that window frame there, so I'll sort that out. And I don't know if you can see from this one, I'll show you better at some point, but the steel beam above this window is rusted and burst the render off. It's the only one of the three across the front that's done it, although I did notice the middle one is now starting to crack, and it looks like that one has already been replaced. So I think what I'm going to do is cut the render off above all three windows and renew it, treat the beams, paint them and renew it. And what else have I got to do there? Oh yes, I've got to put some new vine support up for the grapevine across the front. So that should keep me busy for a couple of weeks, I think. I'm at the top of the scaffolding at the front of the house, or what we call the front of the house. It's where the front door is. I guess the front of the house is the bit that faces the road, but anyway, we call this the front of the house, and that's where we've put the scaffolding up. And like I say, I'm at the top at the moment, and this is one of the very top windows. This is the one that doesn't leak. It has leaked in the past, but it's not leaking anymore. I've already rubbed down the woodwork surrounding the window and given it a coat of undercoat. I've got to fill up some of the gaps, as you can see around the bottom here, that's allowing ants and insects to crawl in, so I need to put some caulking in that to seal that up. And I did get the window open today, which is the first time I've ever opened this window. As you can see, there is a gap between the window frame and the wood surround. I'm going to put some caulking in that, and then I'm going to put a piece of wood over the top of that to seal that. But the biggest problem I've got with this side is this huge gap at the bottom here, which is there is no wood left at the bottom there. It's just a thin veneer at the front. So I'm going to have to chop this off and put a new section of wood in, probably in 2 or 3 parts, and then once that's in properly, I'll seal up around the outside of it and give it a coat of paint. It's nice to have these windows actually open finally, but I have got a bit of work to do inside. As you can see, the damage from where there was a leak in the past has never been rectified, so it's going to be no more than I did in the other side one, which is the bathroom. I have been up on the roof and I have patched that now. So that bit of woodwork is gone okay. Now the next job I've got to do is to weather seal some of the bigger joints that I'm not happy with. This joint here between the front and the window frame, although I have put some caulking in there, what I'm going to do is fit a thin wide strip over it and caulk the two edges of that. That means I've got little tiny thin joints of caulk instead of the one big fat one. That should make it a bit better. I've got to trim the bottom there so it fits behind that, and that will go right down to the windowsill. Another part I'm not too happy with is this front edge where these tiles meet the wood. There's nothing to stop the rain driving in underneath these tiles. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a small piece of timber, a bit hardwood. I'll put that on the edge going up to cover up most of that joint, and then I'll put a covering piece over the front. I have already done that on this side. As you can see, that's covering up that gap quite nicely, and it's much less likely now to let the rain in. Well, that's all the trim pieces on both windows, and I've undercoated them as well. Just got to put a thin layer of caulk up on the joins, and that's all done. I think it looks a lot better, and hopefully it'll keep the weather out. The window frames on the top windows have now been given a coat of oil-based paint, so that should resist the weather quite nicely. As you can see, I've done both of them. I haven't done the opening parts of the windows. I can take those off and do those indoors later. I'm just doing what I need to do while the scaffold's here. Which brings me on to my next job, which is the steel beams above the window openings. My next job is going to be sort out the steel beams above the window openings on the front of the house. The same has happened to these as happened on the back. We've had water get through the render and rust the beam. The rust has expanded and pushed the render off. This one is the worst one. As you can see, it's pushed quite a lot off. On the middle window, you can see it's just starting to crack out. So that one, although it's not gone yet, it will go soon. So I'm going to take the render off there and do that one. And on the third window opening, I think this one has already been done. Looking at it, looks like we've got fresh render above the window, but I will do that one as well, make all three the same. That's all the loose render removed and exposing the beam. As you can see, it's pretty rusty. It's quite interesting that the rust was pushing the render off. You could see it quite plainly as I was removing it. I actually only used a screwdriver just to remove this bit, it was so loose. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to extend the area of render around the beam to make a neat looking beam. Looks like I want to make it look like a stone beam above the window. The new render will do that because it will be a different colour. So that's the next job. as you can see, that render came off quite easy. I think that should be enough now, so that when I render it again, it will now look like a stone lintel above the window. It's not, it's just going to piece a new render, but I think this way it's going to, I can't blend it in, but this way it's not going to stand out as being something completely wrong. And now I've just got to do this on the other two windows. We're now looking at the middle window, and I don't know if you can see, but just here it's starting to crack where it's being forced out, and it also sounds pretty hollow, so it's a good indication that although it's not off yet, it's about to come off in the next year or so. So cut this one out, treat it, render it, same as the other two. I've now got all three of the beams exposed and wire brushed down. My next job is to apply the rust proofing liquid, and that's going to be my last job for the day, so I'm going to now put that on all three of the beams. All three windows have now had the beams exposed, treated for rust and painted. I've also now filled them up with cement, so the next job is going to be applying the render. That's finished off all the render on above the windows. I don't think they look too bad at all. They certainly look like they're meant to be. I'm never going to be able to blend in render with what was there already, so this is the next best thing, is to make it stick out and make it look like a feature. I have got this old pipe sticking out at the front of the house. I was going to block it up, but I don't know if you can see that it's actually had a bird nesting in it. And there's some chicks in there at the moment, so I'm leaving them be. It's a sparrow going by, what I've seen flying in and out.